Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV back with another Market Watch episode. We're actually going to be covering a little bit of everything today. I don't feel like there were a ton of really huge shifts on the market, so I want to talk a little bit more about cards that I think are going to be interesting to keep an eye on moving forward. I feel like the whole Yu-Gi-Oh market is just perched up on this ledge right now, and between Burst of Destiny, Maximum Gold, Brothers of Legend, the Megatins, and a brand new ban list coming, we could be looking at a very different game in a very short amount of time. So of course it's important to try to look ahead and see what cards might be useful in the future so that we can see if there are certain things that will be better off picking up now while they're still affordable. Let's get started. Alright, so the first card we're going to take a look at here is more of an obscure one that I want to touch on briefly. We have Summoning Curse. So this is an older continuous spell card. It's like a floodgate for both players, forcing each player to banish a card from their hand if they want to conduct a special summon of a monster. It's kind of neat. I remember when this card was getting some attention back when Vanity's Emptiness was initially being hyped up as well, and in theory this card is great against combo decks since they are probably committing a lot of resources to the field, so even if they special summon to the point of being able to destroy Summoning Curse, they've probably had to banish multiple resources from their hand in order to get to that point, or otherwise you're just playing a really slow game between two players. However, while the card is good in theory, it does have its flaws. The card does require you to pay 500 life points during your end phase or destroy it, right? So unfortunately, if you want to shut it off itself, you have to do so at the end of your turn, giving your opponent that one turn to be able to combo off before you. Also, I feel like the card kind of solidifies already good boards, but maybe it's not the best card if you're in a top decking situation or something like that. I remember back when this card was first being hyped up, everyone thought it was going to be amazing, but the card never was really able to see any sort of competitive success. I believe that at the moment the card is being hyped up because Yassine talked about it over on his channel. Now the card has two common printings, one from Duelist Revolution and then one from an OTS tournament pack, which are anywhere from $7 to $10 at the moment, which is quite a bit for a common card, though admittedly both versions are relatively old. Obviously I don't know if this time around is going to be any different. Maybe the card will actually see some meta play. What I do know is that after this card got its reprint, it was very easily overlooked, so people were chucking them around and you were easily able to grab copies of this card for like 25 cents or so. It's definitely a card that's worth digging out of your bulk to offload if you happen to know that you have some. The next card we have here is Chaos Hunter, a card that popped up as a side deck card at various points over the last few years. Chaos Hunter is a pretty simple floodgate type of hand trap monster. You special summon this card by discarding a card when your opponent special summons a monster, and while it's face up on the field, it prevents your opponent from removing cards from play. The card is currently being hyped up as a side deck card versus the Tri-Brigade strategy, as it prevents them from banishing to link summon with the Tri-Brigade monster effects. It's also worth noting that it has 2,500 attack points and can beat over a 3 material Appaloosa as well. Anyways, the card is pretty cool, but it does have multiple different printings available, including 2 different structure deck common versions, so if you just need a copy of the card to play with, it should only be a quarter or so. However, if you want to bling out your deck, you're looking at paying $18 for the Secret Rare Unlimited version, or $30 for a Secret Rare First Edition copy, which is a lot, but obviously not as bad as some other cards that we've seen in the past. In this case, I would wait to see what happens with the upcoming October ban list before investing too much into this card, since it's really only good against Tri-Brigades at the moment. If Tri-Brigades were to get hit on the upcoming list, then maybe Chaos Hunter stops seeing the small amount of side deck play that it has thus far. Either way, I would make sure that you have a set of the commons readily available at least, because they're extremely affordable and will continue to potentially be useful in future formats. Alright, so this card might seem a bit strange to look at as something that's potentially undervalued, but that's exactly what I think Pot of Prosperity is. At the moment, there's a few different generic staple secret rares that are pretty expensive, most notably Lightning Storm, Triple Tactics Talent, Forbidden Droplet, and Pot of Prosperity. However, what stands out about Prosperity is that it isn't due to be reprinted until the 2022 Megatins, while the rest should all be reprinted in the 2021 tins. We're about to see a pretty significant loss of value in some pretty expensive cards very soon, and with that, Prosperity will be one of the few remaining expensive staple cards that people will need to buy for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! With the other staples getting more and more affordable, I'm expecting us to see a surge of people buying Pot of Prosperity, and while it's only $100 at the moment, I'm actually fully expecting this card to trend upwards to around $130 to $140 by the end of this year. This card isn't being run in absolutely everything, but it's an amazing card that adds consistency to a lot of strategies, and I think the only really significant drawback is that you can't draw cards by card effects during the turn in which you activate it. However, if it's getting you to that combo piece that you need to set up an unbreakable board, then why not? I'm not saying that you should go out and invest in this card by any means, since it is still a $100 card and it's totally possible that the card will just stay flat in terms of price. However, I do think that if you are already thinking about buying this card for yourself to use, you should do so now, because I personally feel that the chances of it going up in price are a lot higher than the chances of it going down, especially given that it isn't due to be reprinted for another full year. Next up is a card that everyone seems to be hyped up about. It is B-Trooper Scout Buggy. So unless you've been living under a rock, you know about the B-Trooper Battle Wasp insect kind of deck that's running around that everyone seems to be freaking out about. It has caused buyouts of a ton of different obscure cards such as Resonance Insect, Doomdozer, and Aztekipede. Well, actually, one of the more expensive pieces of the deck from Dawn of Majesty, which is the latest core set, is B-Trooper Scout Buggy, one of the set's secret rares. With the B-Troopers being a TCG exclusive archetype, the cards were revealed and no one really knew what to expect. In fact, even after a couple of weeks, it seemed like the deck wasn't going to do anything right away. Now, however, that people have had some time to playtest with it, a lot of people are excited for the next wave of B-Trooper support coming in Burst of Destiny and are scrambling to pick up all of the relevant cards now. Scout Buggy is an awesome card that's basically a tour guide that also triggers when it is special summoned, allowing you to make either a Link 2 or Rank 3 Xyz play, such as with number 3 Cicada King. Anyways, this card has 2 printings, the secret rare which you had to pull from the set itself, and then it was actually also the sneak peek ultra rare. Oddly enough, the ultras are actually more expensive than the secrets, as there were a very limited number of ultras given out since they started limiting the number of sneak peek promos to only a couple per kit, which kinda sucks. It's not a huge price gap, with the secrets at 25 and the ultras at 30, though personally I think the secrets look a lot nicer anyways. The card does have some room to fall down, maybe to around 15 to 20, especially if the deck doesn't perform over the next little bit. But I think that if the next wave of B-Trooper support is as good as the first was, we should expect to see Scout Buggy jump up to around $40 when Burst of Destiny is released. It all kind of depends on how big you are on the deck and how good you think the next wave of support is going to be, but in general, the consensus from the community seems to be that insects are going to be a top tier deck in the next couple of formats. Okay, so really quick note here, guys. I wanted to make sure you guys all know that we have our dividers back in stock once again on MSTmerch.com. We have a very limited number of them available, and it is going to be quite some time before we restock on dividers again. So if you guys have been waiting for them, make sure you go and grab them while they're available. Also, be sure to keep your eyes on the site for some other cool stuff that Tombox and I and the rest of us at MST.TV are going to be putting out there within the next couple of months. Alright, so another weird one here. I didn't actually think I was going to talk about this card initially, but they announced some new ghosttrick support while I was in the middle of filming, so I figured I may as well at least talk about something ghosttrick related, and the card we're going to look at today is ghosttrick Angel of Mischief. So ghosttricks are kind of a more fun, casual deck that have this neat little gimmick of flipping things face down and then attacking your opponent directly. They definitely aren't the most competitive strategy, but we are getting some new ghosttrick support in the next core set coming after Burst of Destiny, which is called Battle of Chaos. The support was just revealed last night, and the support looks interesting to say the least. It's obviously not going to be enough to make the deck top tier by any means, but it will be enough to get some people's attention, as the artwork on all of the cards is really cute, and their playstyle is fun if you're playing casually with your friends or something like that. Anyways, ghosttrick Angel of Mischief is kind of like the boss monster of the deck. It lets you detach a material from it to search for any ghosttrick spell or trap card, and it also wins you the game if you manage to get 10 materials onto it, which is kind of interesting. It's cool because you can just slap it on top of any other ghosttrick Xyz and then you get your search. Anyways, it's not too crazy of a price bump up here, but the card is now up at $5 while it was only a couple of bucks before, and it is worth noting that the card only has one super rare printing from World Superstars, which came out way back in 2015. Obviously, this isn't anything to freak out about quite yet, but do keep an eye on this and other ghosttrick cards with limited printings, such as ghosttrick Mary or ghosttrick Lantern, which may spike in the short term, but are probably due to be reprinted over the next 6 months or so. Okay, so this is a card that maybe hasn't quite spiked yet, but it's definitely something that I would be looking to pick up a few copies of sooner rather than later if you don't own any already. Artifact Scythe is a card that we should all be pretty familiar with, the Artifact package with Artifact Sanctum being a really popular one a couple of years ago, with Scythe being the key piece that locks your opponent out of their extra deck for the turn. Artifacts have kind of fallen out of favor recently, and actually I believe Scythe did get a reprint in Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge that made the card only around $1, while the different versions of Artifact Scythe are now about $2 to $3 a piece, which isn't a big difference obviously. However, I think that it might go up from there in the not so distant future. A lot of people are really excited about the Destiny Hero engine featuring Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, which comes out in Burst of Destiny, and a key feature of the engine is that it can destroy cards during your opponent's turn. This includes destroying your own set Scythe, triggering its effect, and this is a big part of why Artifact Dagda is now over the $3 mark as well, as you can use Dagda to set the Scythe directly from your deck, then go into Verte Anaconda, Fusion Destiny from your deck, bring out the Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, and pop the Scythe that you just set. Obviously, there are some differences between the TCG and OCG, so even though this strategy is seeing success in the OCG, that might not translate when the cards are released here. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is a really big factor. Dragoon is a lot stronger of a standalone card than Destroy Phoenix Enforcer is, but each of the cards can fulfill a different sort of role and provides a different disruption. And also the pieces that you're dumping with Fusion Destiny are actually potentially useful. They aren't just complete vanillas that are super bricky. If you guys don't have a few copies of Scythe already, I would definitely consider picking them up if you can find them somewhere for $1 or $2 from people at your locals or something like that, because I believe they have a really solid chance of climbing in price over the next couple of months leading up to the release of Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. Alright guys, last card we have to talk about here, we have a Pointer of the Red Lotus. So this is a card that I personally am really fond of, even though it has seen a pretty big drop off in competitive play recently. This card was really big a couple of formats ago, especially when we were in a really combo heavy format, since you got a lot of information about your opponent's hand and what cards they had access to, what plays they were going to make, so that you best knew how to disrupt them, while also getting rid of a key piece of your opponent's hand that they potentially really needed in order to play the game. In fact, it was so popular that we saw common copies running into the double digits in terms of price. Now, however, for these super rare reprints from OTS Tournament Pack 14, you can pick up those copies for only $1 or so, which is honestly kind of crazy to me given how useful the card was and potentially could be in the future. The way that the game is played right now, games do typically go on for a few turns, so a Pointer maybe isn't the best card. Fortunately, the format is actually a lot slower than when we just had Dragon Link and Infernoble Knights with Smoke Grenade running around. Because of that, a Pointer doesn't really have its time to shine now and isn't seeing a lot of play, and I feel like the card is definitely being overlooked. A Pointer is the type of card that will come in and out of formats as the game grows and evolves, and right now, while it's definitely out of the format, I think it's a great time to stock up on multiple copies of this card for when it eventually sees play again. Okay everyone, that is it for today's video. Those are just a few of the different cards that I personally am keeping an eye on for right now. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen with the market moving forward, especially because reprints can so drastically affect a card's price, but it's always kind of fun to take a look and guess out where prices are going to be moving to. Anyways, if you did enjoy today's video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button for me and let me know. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below, and if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tom Box and myself here on the channel. And of course, make sure you check out MSTmerch.com to see those dividers that we just restocked, as well as the other great stuff we have up there, and keep an eye on the site over the next couple of months for some other really great product drops. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.